Race day 5 of 21 this year brings us to the picturesque south coast of Portugal as the World Championship hits European shores for the first time in 2022. Get ready to ride the Portimao roller coaster as it's time to race in MotoGP. .5 kilometres, this spectacular undulating Algarve International Circuit. 9 right turns, 6 of them left on the MotoGP calendar, of course, for the first time in 2020. A famous win for Portugal's Miguel Oliveira. So much spectacular undulation and elevation changes. Alex Rins, a 1:39.450, holds the best race lap, although the Suzuki man comes from 23rd on the grid today. This is the overtaking hotspot. Fabio Quartararo on Rins on his way to take the victory here 1 year ago. Coming up later in MotoGP, Johann Zarco zones in on a first Premier Class win from pole position. Joan Mir targets a third straight Portimao podium from second. Aprilia's Aleix Espargaro aims to find his winning touch again from third. Can Miguel Oliveira repeat his 2020 brilliance from the 4th row? A very good afternoon and a warm welcome to the Algarve International Circuit in Portugal. The stage is set. Showtime about half an hour away for round 5 in the 2022 MotoGP World Championship. There are a few grey clouds that have started to gather over the hillsides overlooking this famous 4.5 kilometre roller coaster ride here in Portimao. We have not got any rain forecast for the MotoGP race, which gets underway in about 33 minutes time, 1 p.m. local time. We've had so much drama, so much excitement and entertainment already so far here this weekend, and it's the Premier Class boys in Portimao up next in the company of myself, Matt Burt, Lewis Sotheby joining me in the commentary box with Simon Crafar down in pit lane. What a 25-lap battle, our first battle on European shores in 2022 coming up very, very shortly. Repsol Honda's Marc Marquez, a bit unlucky, rotten luck yesterday in that second qualifying session, a crash late on for his teammate Pol Espargaro at turn 15, brought out the yellow flags. Marc Marquez came over the line, took a pole position lap, it was bettered, but had that lap not been scrubbed off for Marquez for the yellow flags, instigated by his teammate Pol Espargaro of all people, he would have been 4th on the grid. Marquez though goes for the second race in succession from 9th. Expect fireworks.
Yes, hopefully not as many fireworks from Marc Marquez's point of view as we saw in Austin, of course. He dropped right to the back of the field, didn't he, on the first lap. He'll be certainly looking to be aggressive, as will this man. Miguel Oliveira will have the home crowd cheering him around each and every one of the 25 laps that he races in this afternoon. Oliveira, winner, of course, on MotoGP's first visit to Portimao at the end of the 2020 season. Had very good speed in the wet right throughout free practice. Was quickest on both sessions leading up to qualifying on Saturday, both FP3 and FP4, but it didn't quite come together for him or his teammate Brad Binder in qualifying. But Oliveira certainly seems to have the pace to go forward. Can he make good progress from the 4th row of the grid? A sporting superstar in this part of the world is Miguel Oliveira. 800 bikes tailed him on a parade from downtown Portimao to this Algarve International Circuit for a fantastic pre-event here on Wednesday. Hard to really understand though what you're going to get from Miguel Oliveira at the moment. Fabio Quartararo then, the reigning world champion, winner here 1 year ago in April from pole position. Slightly harder task ahead of him here this afternoon. He goes from the middle of the second row in
in 5th place. Found some good form in the rain conditions yesterday. Let's hope there's not going to be any further rain disruption in this 25-lap Grand Prix. And a strong warm-up this morning for Fabio Quartararo on that Monster Energy Yamaha machine. He led the way with the fastest time of the weekend so far. There's been such little dry track time for these riders going into this 5th round of the championship. A bit of a stab in the dark, a bit of a journey into the unknown. Who's going to roll the dice maybe on the tyre choice? Who's going to have found the best electronic settings quickly in that 20-minute warm-up session? And do not discount this man, Lewis. Joan Mir, a career best second on the grid on the factory Suzuki. Many people tipping him to be a potential race winner here today.
He's the favourite for many, isn't he? Joan Mir starts from second on the grid, higher than he's ever started for a MotoGP race before. He's been quick in just about every condition. He just oozes confidence, does Joan Mir, and he doesn't have to make the same level of progress that he often does from qualifying. Quite the opposite for this young man, Pecco Bagnaia, who's got plenty on his plate this afternoon, as he gives a friendly wave to the camera, but he is in pain. Make no mistake about it. A very sore right shoulder after a crash in qualifying 1 yesterday when he just caught a damp patch on the way out of turn 1. Bagnaia is on a damage limitation mission today. He starts from the back of the grid. Yeah,
he was only declared fit pre this morning's warm-up session, Pecco Bagnaia. The horrible high side on the damp patch, on slick tyres. He gambled early in that Q1 session. It was a gamble that unfortunately spectacularly backfired. He was treated in the Circuit Medical Centre here. No fractures diagnosed. He then underwent further assessment in a local hospital before he was declared fit. You won't see under those leathers, but there's heavy strapping on that right shoulder for Pecco Bagnaia. We just saw there Alex Marquez hoping to give himself a belated 26th birthday present. Alex was 26 yesterday. Excellent qualifying for him. He came through Q1 with Luca Marini. He starts from 7th, and strangely to say, contrasting fortunes in Pramac Ducati. If there's a Pramac Ducati rider this year who's starting from pole position, you put your mortgage on it being Jorge Martin, but he had a tough Saturday yesterday. Unlike this man, Lewis, the 7th MotoGP pole position secured by Johann Zarco.
Martin also had a crashing warm-up this morning as well, so he's not having an easy weekend. He has to come from the middle of the pack. Johann Zarco then from pole position. Perhaps one of the more important pole positions that he or anyone will claim in MotoGP. As we mentioned at the top of the show, all 3 MotoGP races here at Portimao since we started coming here in 2020 have been won from pole position. If that trend continues today, then Johann Zarco, at the 89th time of asking, could become a MotoGP winner. But plenty of pitfalls ahead of him before we get to that point. Plenty of challengers further back. Pol Espargaro, of course, he'll be looking to try and get himself in on the action as well. He starts from 10th on the grid this afternoon. Of course, it was his crash that was the key moment in many respects of qualifying 2 yesterday. His crash brought out the yellow flags and, of course, ruined a potential second row lap for his teammate Marc Marquez. Pol Espargaro was pretty cross yesterday, understandably so, but a new day. He'll be looking to move forward from 10th on the grid as Honda looks to get back on form after a difficult couple of races.
Don't discount this young man as well. Thriller Miller, the Australian Jack Miller. He's never qualified lower than 4th place here in 4 qualifying sessions in Portimao. Got a great record, started front row and finished 2nd after a great late battle with Frankie Morbidelli at the end of 2020. That helped Ducati win their first constructor title since 2007. He started 2nd and finished 3rd here last November. So Miller going from that head of the 2nd row with Fabio Quartararo and Marco Bezzecchi for company. He has got a great chance of a podium here today as well, amongst the backdrop of all the rumours that he's potentially looking at options away from Ducati next year. Some initial gossip that there's been some tentative discussions between Miller about a possible return to LCR Honda in 2023.
You just saw Brad Binder on screen. He starts 12th on the grid. Couple of mistakes for him at the end of qualifying 2 yesterday, which prevented him from starting a little bit higher up the field. But we so often see Brad Binder move forward on a Sunday, so keep an eye out for him. Aleix Espargaro, front row of the grid once again. Can he leave here back in charge of the World Championship? He trails Enea Bastianini, the championship leader, by 11 points. Bastianini's all the way back in 18th on the grid. Here is the World Championship leader. Aleix Espargaro, though, really left it late in both sessions yesterday. Free practice 3 when he was just in time to get himself into the top 10 before the rain really picked up, and then on the last lap of qualifying 2 got himself onto the front row of the grid. But Enea Bastianini, another of the walking wounded this afternoon. You can see that strapping on his right hand. That's as a result of a crash in qualifying 1 yesterday. A big high side for Enea Bastianini coming out of turn 5. Much like Pecco Bagnaia, a bit of damage limitation is the target for Enea Bastianini. We saw so many occasions last season when he was starting deep on the grid, he will come through late in the race, but this is a big task ahead of the World Championship leader here today.
One of those real horrible, nasty off-throttle high sides for Enea Bastianini at turn number 5. Alex Rins just heading out onto the circuit.
Looks like a wet tyre on that, maybe
just
scrubbing in a wet tyre. There is the potential, of course, of flag to flag. We've already mentioned the forecast, which was for no rain here, but the menacing black clouds up ahead of us, that will have certainly caught the attention of the teams back there, so they'll be making sure they have those wet tyres scrubbed in case they need them, of course. If it does rain, we have flag to flag conditions. They will come in and change motorcycles.
Been a bit of a nightmare so far this weekend for Alex Rins, just off the pace, lacking confidence in the rain conditions. What can he do from the middle of the 8th row down in 23rd place? A tough battle coming up for Alex Rins. I think if he can rescue a point scoring finish, that would be great. A top 10 would feel like a win coming from so far back. Luca Marini, well, we know he's always got great one-lap speed. We've seen that so often already so far in 2022. Still some lingering doubts about his ability over the longer race distance in terms of tyre management, particularly with the rear tyre. The last couple of Grand Prix, he's faded and dropped backwards with a few rear tyre endurance problems, of course, with the lack of information and the lack of experience in terms of assessing your endurance and durability on the slick tyres here this weekend. I wonder how that will factor in for Luca Marini. That said, though, a great job yesterday in qualifying. Came through the tricky Q1. He sandwiched in between the Marquez brothers in 8th place on the middle of that 3rd row.
A shout out for his teammate as well, Marco Bezzecchi, who starts in 6th on the grid on the 2nd row. Here are the Michelin tyre allocations then. Asymmetric tyres here. Of course, this Portimao circuit has a little bit of everything, and of course there's no lack of choice for the riders. The first time they really saw slick tyres of any kind were yesterday in qualifying. We saw them ramp for the first time in qualifying 1, and then the whole of qualifying 2 took part in the wet. In terms of tyre choice, well, a lot of riders are expecting to go for the medium option. It's the best compromise. The soft, we're not expecting the soft rear tyre to last the race distance. And of course, in the relatively cool temperatures that we have here, there might be some concern for the riders if they go for the harder tyre, whether they'll be able to build that temperature early on in the Grand Prix. Fabio Quartararo went out in warm-up this morning with a soft front tyre and a medium rear, and his rhythm in warm-up this morning was absolutely outstanding, comfortably lapping in the 1 minute 40s. Every rider pretty much did 12 laps in morning warm-up this morning. 7 of Fabio Quartararo's were in the 1 minute 40s. No one else did more than 4 in the 1 minute 40s. Whether that's an indication for the Grand Prix we've got coming up, we have to wait and see, but there was no question that Fabio Quartararo had the superior pace and rhythm in warm-up this morning. Some
initial tyre information then coming through from Michelin. At the moment, this is coming to the grid. Everybody has the medium front tyre fitted to their machinery, and just a couple of left field choices in terms of the rear tyre at the moment. Pol Espargaro going for the hard rear, and Alex Marquez likewise going for the hard rear. Everybody else on the grid going for that medium rear tyre, which we thought was going to be the preferred pick. So we'll keep a close eye on whether Alex Marquez and Pol Espargaro do indeed start this Grand Prix. 25 laps of Tissot Grand Prix of Portugal with that hard compound rear tyre. An interesting choice from 2 of the 4 Honda men here in Portimao.
Yes, so very little data for the riders this weekend. A lot of teams will be drawing on the data from last year's 2 races that we had here at Portimao. And Enea Bastianini was one of those. Of course, the GP21 that he'll be riding won this Grand Prix last year in the form of Pecco Bagnaia. As far as Darren Binder was concerned, spoke to him yesterday. He'll also be drawing on the settings that Yamaha used here last year. Of course, Darren Binder is running on the year-old Yamaha. He goes from 22nd on the grid. 24 riders on the grid. Lorenzo Savadori starts 21st as a wildcard, but the one rider missing on the grid this afternoon is Raul Fernandez for the Tech 3 KTM Factory Racing squad. He injured his hand yesterday in a crash in qualifying, and he's been declared unfit for the Grand Prix this afternoon, so Remy Gardner goes it alone for Tech 3.
This is the place to be in Portugal. Pole position for Pramac Racing's Johan Zarco, the 31-year-old Frenchman. Just the 7th pole position of his Premier Class career, 26 in his Grand Prix career. Can he finally break that long winning victory duck? Loris Capirossi, Troy Bayliss, Casey Stoner, Andrea Iannone, Andrea Dovizioso, Jorge Lorenzo, Danilo Petrucci, Jack Miller, Jorge Martin, his teammate Pecco Bagnaia, and Enea Bastianini. They've all tasted glory in MotoGP for Ducati. Is it finally the turn of the Frenchman here today in Portimao as Enea Bastianini? Will he be the MotoGP World Championship leader come the end of play today? down in 18th place. It's a battered and bruised Bastianini trying to defend that 5-point lead over Alex Rins in the championship. It got even worse yesterday for Alex Rins. He's a further 5 places back behind Enea Bastianini. Let's quickly pop back down onto the grid. Simon Craif, I'm delighted to say, is with Pramac Racing's Jorge Martin, head of the 5th row.
Jorge, bit of a tough Saturday and a tough morning warm-up, but we know how good you are in the race, and we know how good a Ducati is for overtaking on this long straight. Can you give us your thoughts going into the race?
Yeah, well, warm-up was going quite well till the crash. I was really confident following Paul and Mark, so I think we are good and strong for today's race. Let's see, because it's a long race, we need to manage a little bit the rear, but I think we are ready for everything.
Good luck, Jorge.
Yeah, a good look then to Jorge Martin. Here is the grid then for the Tissot Grand Prix of Portugal.
Yeah, a number of riders out of position, as you can see, as we come into the second half of the field. Enea Bastianini in 18th position. It's as low as he started quite comfortably all season. The lowest grid position for him since Valencia last year. He'll have an awful lot of work to do. Jorge Martin, 13th. You can see just ahead of Maverick Vinales. There's another racer who feels he has pace that is better than his grid position. Franco Morbidelli down in 19th position ahead of Remy Gardner, as mentioned, is the sole KTM Tech 3 rider on the grid. Lorenzo Savadori is a wild card for Aprilia this weekend. Starts ahead of Darren Binder, and look at the big names alongside him on the back row of the grid. Alex Rins in 23rd. Pecco Bagnaia starts 24th with a sore shoulder. How many points can he rescue from this Grand Prix as we see some late tyre changes going on at Ducati? Let's see, of course, whether that's for Jack Miller or Pecco Bagnaia and what the decision is going to be. It looks like you'd imagine it's going to be between the medium and the hard. It would be a big call for anyone at this stage to go for the soft rear tyre.
Yeah, there's a couple of murmurings this morning after the warm-up that maybe Aprilia, in particular Maverick Vinales, starting from 14th place, the middle of the 5th row, they might gamble on the soft rear tyre, despite what Piero Taramasso was saying to Simon Craif this morning. But it doesn't look like at the moment. The initial information filtering through from Michelin is that, as we suspected, there is nobody that's going to take a punt on that soft rear tyre. So the tension builds. It's been a pretty chilly, windy and wet weekend so far here in Portimao. Thankfully, at the moment, it looks like we're going to get a dry race. Aleix Espargaro, well, will he be in the dream scenario of going into round 6, his home Grand Prix in Jerez in 7 days' time, having reclaimed the World Championship lead? Old but gold, and old and still fast, thankfully, yesterday. That was Aleix Espargaro. A bit of experience being used by Johan Zarco and Aleix Espargaro on that front row of the grid. Aleix Espargaro was saying yesterday when he woke up and saw the conditions, eating his breakfast, he was like, this is going to be a long, long Saturday. So to come out of it with a front row and a great chance really to get himself back into that World Championship lead. As Lewis mentioned, he's only 11 points adrift of Enea Bastianini, and it's not a given that Bastianini is going to score points here today, because he's really, really beaten up after that nasty high side at turn 5 yesterday in Q1.
Changes also going on at Pramac. If you applied points to the grid positions and projected that forward to the end of the 25-lap race, you'd have Joan Mir and Aleix Espargaro both level on point to the top of the World Championship. An awful long way to go, though, before we start handing the points out. How many points can Pecco Bagnaia salvage from this afternoon? Of course, winner the last time we raced here from the pole position, of course, starting at a very opposite end of the grid here this afternoon. 24th on the grid, promoted a spot due to the absence of Raul Fernandez. Just how physically is he feeling? We expect him to have taken 1 or 2 painkillers to give himself the best chance of lasting the distance over these 25 laps. Very important for him to try and make as much ground as he can in the very early stages of this Grand Prix. It's a real tight turn 1, and it tightens up into a very slow turn 3 as well. So the middle of the pack can be where a lot of the danger can be, but Bagnaia is going to have to be aggressive and try and block out the pain that he's suffering.
It looked like he was holding like an ice pack or a heat pad on that right shoulder there. Let's go down the grid. I'm delighted to say he's making his first return to the MotoGP paddock since he retired at the end of 2021. It's the 9 times world champion, the legend, Valentino Rossi, with Simon.
Yes, he is. Valentino, would love to hear. It was great to have you back, first of all, but I'd love to hear what you think of your team, how it's going so far, Mooney VR46 team and your riders.
For us, this weekend and the qualifying are very good, and here is very difficult. It's very difficult for the riders. It's very difficult also for the team, because it's a new team, so we need to take experience. But the work is good. Now you know the race is always different, and you need to have a good pace. But they start from a good position.
Billy, I have a car crazy son, and tongue-in-cheek, I tell him, four wheels are fantastic if you don't have the talent for two. So how's the car racing going?
No, it's very different, but I enjoy a lot. The car is fast, have a lot of very strong drivers, but I enjoy.
Great to see you back.
Grazie, ciao Simon.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Great to see and great to hear Valentino Rossi back where he belongs in the MotoGP World Championship. His boys, Marco Bezzecchi starts from a career-best 6th place in MotoGP. Brother Luca Marini goes from the middle of the 3rd row in 8th place. Fantastic to have Valentino back. Still getting used to, aren't we, the fact that he's not part of this MotoGP World Championship as a rider after being here since 1996. Now then, Jack Miller, 4th place. All kinds of rumours, as always, about his future. He comes over there just to shake the hands of Pramac Ducati boss Paolo Campinotti. They've got a great relationship. Will he be back at Pramac in 2023? He won't care right now. He's fully focused on the job in hand, and that's the Tissot Grand Prix of Portugal coming up for Jack Miller. Can he make it back-to-back podiums in 2022? Well, at the moment, when the riders came through the grid, it looked like only Pol Espargaro and Alex Marquez had taken the decision to run the hard compound Michelin rear tyre. Let's get the pre-race thoughts of Michelin Motorsport manager Piero Taramassa with Simon.
Yes, Piero, as Matt just said, we'd love to hear your pre-race thoughts about tyres going into this race.
Yes, track is dry. It looks like it will stay dry for the race, at least for the first lap. So everybody choose the front medium. That was what I said this morning. About the rear also, many riders there with the rear medium, and maybe 2 Honda, they will try with the rear hard. This morning they tried in the warm-up, Alex and Paul, they were happy. It's more stable compared to the medium. So with this choice, all the riders, they can push from the start to the end, and I'm sure we can see a very nice race like in Austin.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Piero Taramassa, this stunning, scenic, picturesque Algarve International Circuit, nestled right at the heart of the Algarve coast. Beautiful part of the world, this, in southern Portugal. Although that coastal location, it has brought some pretty temperamental weather here so far this weekend. And Piero Taramassa there just saying that initially, at least the first few laps should be dry. Let's hope we don't get some kind of weather disruption. Of course, there'll be a flag-to-flag potentially coming up in MotoGP. Joan Mir looks the epitome of ice, cool, calm and collected. He said yesterday in that post-qualifying press conference, he's never felt more confident, never felt better. I've just got this feeling, I mentioned it in our warm-up build-up this morning, that Joan Mir may well be taking just his 2nd win in the MotoGP World Championship. That could be crucial in terms of his championship 4th at the moment. What does the Team Suzuki X-Star boss Livio Suppo think about his 2 men at the front and the back of the grids? Unfortunately, Joan Mir and Alex Rins coming up very shortly. Here's Livio Suppo with Simon.
Livio, we know how dangerous Joan is, even from the 2nd or 3rd row, but today's in the middle of the front row. I'd love your thoughts on him, and also Alex Rins, who I think he can come through.
Let's wait and see. For sure, Joan is in a very good position. He liked the circuit since Friday, was immediately very confident, and so I believe he can do a very good race. For Alex, it's different, of course. Starting from the last grid is always not easy, but you never know. And also with this weather, I believe he could have the pace to recover, but we will see. He's not the only strong rider in the back, so we will see.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Livio Suppo. Joan Mir starting from 2nd place, 4th in the World Championship, 46 points gathered from a really consistent start for 2022. 6 places in Qatar and Mandalika, followed up by back-to-back 4th places in Termas and Texas.
You just got a glimpse of Marco Bezzecchi there. 2nd row of the grid for Marco Bezzecchi despite a crash in warm-up this morning. He's had a really good weekend so far as Bezzecchi, particularly good in the wet conditions. Of course, a dry race for him today. His first real dry experience, of course, of this Portimao circuit with that lack of running in warm-up due to the crash. Bezzecchi is going to have an awful lot of top contenders around him. Can Bezzecchi stick around at the front? We shall see.
Let's quickly pop back down to the grid. Simon Crafer, I believe, has got the Ducati camp with him down there.
I have Paolo Ciabatti. Paolo, just quickly before the national anthem, can we hear from you what you think about the Ducati riders, especially Jack so far up, but also how Pecco's feeling?
Well, Jack had a very good warm-up, so I think he has a really good pace to be in the leading group in the race. Let's hope so. And for Pecco, actually warm-up was better than we expected. He still obviously has some pain on the shoulder, especially in the last sector where it's all right corners. He's suffering a bit, but in the end, I think he took some painkillers, put some ice, and hopefully he can do a good race and gain as many positions as possible. That's the target today.
Thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Paolo Ciabatti. Yes, as Lewis mentioned, a somewhat damage limitation exercise in many respects for Pecco Bagnaia. Contrasting fortunes. You've only got to go back 6 months to this corresponding race, and Bagnaia was on a different level, untouchable. He took pole position, led every lap of the Grand Prix, set the fastest lap, and took the race victory. The first time a Ducati rider has done that since Casey Stoner, when he was dominant on home turf at Phillip Island way back in 2010. Very shortly we'll have our new special grid ceremony where we'll have the Portuguese national anthem. There'll be a rousing rendition of that for this man, Miguel Oliveira, with the fans in the grandstand as well. Of course, there'll be the MotoGP trophy stand as well. You can hear the local announcer, I think, just getting everybody prepped for the grid ceremony. And we will pause now for the national anthem.
Heróis do mar, nobre povo, nação valente e imortal, levantai hoje de novo o esplendor de Portugal. Entre as brumas da memória, ó pátria, sente-se a voz dos teus igrejos avós, que há de guiar-te à vitória. Às armas, sobre a terra e sobre o mar. Às armas, pela pátria, contra os canhões marchar.
A great rendition there of the Portuguese national anthem. The fighter jets blitz over the top of this Algarve International Circuit. We'll quickly pop back down to Simon Crowfar with Repsol Honda team manager Alberto Puig.
Yes, Alberto, really would like your thoughts. What's the chance of Marc doing another stunning ride through, especially in those early laps? Yeah, no problem. What's the chance of Marc doing another stunning ride through the field, especially in those early laps? We know how aggressive he can be.
Well, we never know. I mean, it's an atypical. It's not the same. I mean, they didn't have so much track time here, so they will go out, all riders, with not the perfect bike, but I think the riders must adapt today. And in Marc's case, you know, he's a guy that he can adapt in a short period of time, but every race is different, and this start is quite different from the one in Austin, so you never know. It's difficult to predict, but only thing we can understand or know is that he will try.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can bet your last dollar that Marc Marquez will try. He will be going all in from the back of that third row. 9th place on the grid for the 8 times world champion. Honda still without a podium finish in 3 previous races here in Portimao. Can this man end it? If he does so, it will be a landmark milestone, 100th MotoGP podium finish for Marc Marquez. That's the preferred tyre pick throughout the field here. The medium front tyre, medium rear tyre. That's what Marc Marquez has gone for on that all-new Repsol Honda RC213V. As we mentioned just a few moments ago, Pol Espargaro is Repsol Honda teammate, this man's brother, of course, and Alex Marquez. They were the only 2 men that opted for the hard compound Michelin rear slick.
Marquez admitted he needs a bit of luck today on a few fronts. A, to try and get himself through the field and stay out of trouble in the early laps, but also in terms of setup and what the tyre choice is. Of course, they really are playing a bit of guesswork given the lack of dry track time this weekend. Here's Mark's brother Alex, celebrated his 26th birthday yesterday. As it stands, he is going with that harder Michelin rear tyre. His career best grid position in MotoGP for Alex Marquez, and quick in warm-up as well this morning. So can the young Spaniard go forward? He went very well here in the Algarve Grand Prix last year. That red flag denied him a potential podium, of course.
You can just see there on that graphic as well, confirmation that Alex Marquez will indeed start with the yellow-banded Michelin hard rear slick tyres. The safety car pulls away then. The countdown continues to our first European action in the 2022 MotoGP World Championship. Round 5 coming to you from the spectacular Algarve International Circuit, the Tiso Grand Prix of Portugal. We're just less than 5 minutes away now from the get-go, with Johan Zarco on pole position for the first time in 2022. We've had a Pramac Ducati on the front row of the grid in the last 6 Grand Prix now. Zarco's first pole position since the Sachsenring in Germany last year. Will it be a thriller from Miller? Valentino Rossi, of course, major interest in this Grand Prix for him, not just because he's managing Marco Bezzecchi and Luca Marini's Muni VR46 team, but of course he's also still heavily involved with Frankie Morbidelli and Pecco Bagnaia.
Marc Marquez then starting just behind Luca Marini. As we've just mentioned, Marini goes from 8th on the grid. Keep an eye out then in the very early stages for the riders out of position on the grid. This is the front row of the grid, but we've got several key contenders looking to come through from the back, including, of course, our World Championship leader, Enea Bastianini.
Third place in the World Championship right now for Aleix Espargaro. Third on the grid for the factory Aprilia Man. A career best second on the grid for Joan Mir, the 2020 MotoGP World Champion, bidding for a third consecutive podium here in Portimao. No difference in the tyre choice between the men on that front row of the grid, but it's a Pramac Ducati man on pole position here in Portimao. His first pole of 2022 for the French